The House has resumed. The House is debating the Prime Minister's statement, and the Honourable Nathan Guy has the call. He has just under 6 minutes remaining.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr. Speaker, just before the dinner break, I was talking about what a fantastic Prime Minister's statement for 2013 it was. And judging by the delivery, the passion and the content of that speech, the Prime Minister is certainly going to be delivering a lot more of those statements in this House. Certainly I would see many more statements into the next term as well and beyond. In essence, what the Prime Minister laid out today is the importance of economic growth and actually how well this government has been doing in pretty trying times over the last few years. And we all understand that we've had the global financial situation which has affected a lot of countries, in fact every country around the world pretty much. And the countries that we like to compare ourselves with, which are the countries in Europe, the UK, Canada and also the US, we are doing incredibly well in comparison. And it's interesting that Treasury have forecast economic growth for the next 3 years of about 2.5%, which is fantastic. And that leads me on to talking about the Canterbury rebuild, which is of huge significance to the New Zealand economy. And the government's always said we want to support the people of Canterbury get back on their feet. And we're talking about a rebuild somewhere in the vicinity of $30 billion over the next 10 years or so. And the government has a real focus of supporting the people of Canterbury and getting the people of Christchurch and the CBD and all of those precincts that have been rolled out by the Minister for Earthquake Recovery, the Honourable Jerry Brownlee, starting to really take shape down there as we move out of the demolition phase into the rebuild phase. And importantly, yesterday as Minister of Immigration, I announced that we're going to ensure that the Skills Hub is even being more efficient than what it is currently, and we've signalled that employers that want to bring in some migrant workers, and we know in the Canterbury rebuild that we will need to bring in some migrant workers, but this government has a real focus on making sure that Kiwis are first. At the end of November, we announced the Canterbury Skills Hub, and what's happened since that announcement, Mr. Speaker, is there's been 240 employers who have been registered, 800 job seekers have put their hands up saying we wish to seek a job, and there are currently 200 vacancies. So basically how it works is if an employer is looking for someone to perform in their company, then they write in or make an approach to the Skills Hub. Within 48 hours, someone from there, from MSD, has made contact with them and said, yes, there are Kiwis available, put them in contact with one another, or if there aren't Kiwis available, then they go through the immigration process. And we believe that we can streamline this and ensure that we have a real focus on Kiwis first, but we know that the scale of the Canterbury rebuild will mean that we will need to bring some migrant workers in. What we also heard from the Prime Minister's statement today is a strong focus on education. And we have set some clearly very courageous and determined targets for those young students to ensure that we get 98% participation by 2016 of early childhood students. And then that rolls on to national standards, and I heard the Labor benches have a bit of a chuckle because we all know that they're opposed to national standards. And when I read my kids' reports just before Christmas time, I thought, isn't it fantastic that now we have plain reporting, and I understand, like all the other parents do, as to how well my kids are doing in terms of those core subjects that we all want them to do better than what they currently are: reading, writing and maths. And importantly, we've also set another very strong target, which is on NCEA level 2, ensuring that we get 85% of our 18-year-olds up to this by 2017. Also increasing the proportion of 25 to 34-year-olds that can achieve a level 4 diploma or degree. So we have a real focus on education. We also have a real focus on law and order, ensuring that we're keeping our community safe. And when I put my local MP hat on in my home township of Levin, we have now the most police officers ever in the history of our township on the beat. And that's under this government, and we should be very proud of that fact. And what we had the other day was Mr Shearer roll out his State of the Nation speech with no new policy. By the way, all he said was, whoops, mea culpa, I made a mistake. Actually, our housing proposal's all wrong. We can't build houses for Auckland, 300,000. It's actually going to cost 550,000 to build a 4-bedroom house in Auckland. So it was interesting that that's all we heard from Mr Shearer, and that's all we're really going to hear from him for the next 12 or 24 months. But of course, he has to survive the leadership struggle. We know there's a vote coming up, whether he will survive that. We also know that there is a reshuffle coming up, and of course that is going to mean that some of the front bench will be moving to the back bench, and we wait to see where he puts Mr Cunliffe.
Sue Moroney.